today? I'm Mariana.
I'm good. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Good, thank you. On behalf of everyone at Screen Speck, thank you so much for sitting down and speaking with me today.
Of course, no problem.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your work and on the show and all the nominations. How
Thank
are you,
you.
after all of that?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Really pleased for the show. You know, the amount we got is incredible for all my colleagues that work so hard on the show and my team to get their nominations. And yeah, just blown away. Just the people I'm up against. It's crazy to me. Overwhelming.
Well, it's incredibly well deserved. Explain kind of to us what your role is on Ted Lasso. What is your specific job and kind of like the rest of your team and how important that is to characterization and making these characters come to life.
So I'm the head of hair and makeup. I joined right at the start for the season one pilot, and I've done all three seasons. I oversee everyone on the show. So I kind of myself, pretty much I'll come up with the look for each character because we knew that they were all, even the kind of what we call all the supporting members of AFC Richmond. We knew they were going to kind of be with us for the duration. So like we came up with their looks right at the start. I say we, me, and then a few of them changed throughout the seasons, like intentionally, but generally, they have a look, and that's their hero look, and that's decided on in terms of the players. I'm specifically personal to Jason, who plays Ted, and Juno, who plays Keely. So yeah, just my role is overseeing my team, making sure that everyone obviously looks as they should, how their character should, maintaining continuity, which is sometimes tricky when you're hopping from they're in the middle of a football field, which is filmed one week, then they're in a locker room, which has been filmed a week earlier, and then they're, in the they're training on the same day, or like, in Hannah's case, Rebecca's case, she can be at home in the morning, and then you see her in her office, and then she's in Ted's office, and then she might be, in the pub with her mum. It's all the same day, so it's just maintaining that look, maintaining that continuity, and also trying to tell a story through someone's hair and makeup. And I try and do that. We all try and do that. We're all storytellers. We're all passionate about what we do, and just trying to convey a character's mood as best we can through our particular department. So working closely with costume is always a must. And Jackie Levy is great. Work with her for all three seasons. And yeah, just kind of like trying to come up with new ideas all the time. I mean, Ted should never change, really. He never changes much unless he's a bit disheveled or he's had a late night or he's stressed. But generally, Ted is Ted and has been for three seasons. But like Keely, I mean, she has to change every hour, pretty much. She has, I think, 44 in season three alone, 44 different hair and makeup looks. So I think if you think to most of your favorite shows, a character will often have one. Sometimes they'll have two or three. Sometimes they'll have their hair sometimes up or down, but generally we don't really change them. Keely Jones is a whole nother level. She just loves to experiment with her hair and her makeup and her eyebrows and her nails and her hair accessories, and equally with her costume and her jewelry. She's always different. So she's probably my biggest challenge in terms of me and Juno just racking our brain trying to come up with another new look.
I was exactly going to ask you about Keely's looks. I even have a couple of pictures that you put up on your Instagram. Some of my favorites were the ones where you included the Richmond colors and I think it was for season 2, you included a goldfish clip on her hair.
Yeah.
What made it so important to include that many different looks on Keely, and basically why was that such an important part of her character?
I think even filming, I wanted to do it, but I don't think I really understood how important actually it would be in the long run. And it became such a symbol of what Keely is about. She is 100% pure kindness and fun. And there is no downside to Keely. It's all meant with the best of intention, just like Juno in real life. And when she put that goldfish in her hair, it was literally to support Sam, because he was standing up for what he believed in. He was having a hard time. And, the goldfish was kind of his thing. And I found it on a website and I was like, this is something Keely would do, because she's such a good human. And she wore sometimes she wore her feelings in her hair. Like when she was, when her and Roy were really getting together at the start of season 2, and she wears the Roy Kent into Keely Jones hair clip. And then when she was Miss Independent at the end of season 3 at the barbecue, she was just then Keely Jones. So, and even the Richmond colours, she was passionate about Richmond. She wanted them to win. So when they played at Wembley, which was a big game in season 2, we intertwined the Richmond colours into her braids. And then for the last game ever, season 3, we found these amazing vintage Louis Vuitton hair bubbles in a vintage store. And they were in the glass cabinet. And me and Juno were shopping in Notting Hill because we were filming around the corner. And I was like, they've got these hair bubbles and they're Richmond colours and they're Louis Vuitton and they're in the cabinet. She was like, oh my God, we were like standing in the shop. Like, what do we do? They're so ridiculously expensive. She was like, I'll buy them. Like, don't worry about it. And then I said to the lady, how much are these really amazing vintage hair bubbles? And the lady was like, we love the show. We'll help you out, ladies. And I was like, And so she had these really ridiculously valuable hair bubbles in her hair at the end of season 3. But they were Richmond colours, and we just had to do it. It was the last time she was going to watch them play. And for Keely is as generous in nature with her gifting and everything as Juno is in real life. Juno would come on the makeup bus and just give us all, things that she has just laying around, that she doesn't want anymore. Like, she gave me a pair of vintage Prada boots because she said they didn't fit her. I was like, put them on eBay, put them on Vinted. But she's just the biggest heart. She's just the biggest heart. And Keely's the same. So I just couldn't do enough for her. It was a lot of work, but it was so worth it. And I'm so proud of all those pictures and all those looks. And that's why I post them, because it was, it's like my pride and joy. She was my project, Keely Jones, my pride and joy.
Well, as someone who appreciates when a character is hyper feminine without making them out to be, because our conception of like hyper feminine women is like, well, they're ditzy and they're not very smart, but this is someone who runs her own company, who's emotionally intelligent, and not just it's really great to see someone be that expressive in their look, in their physical appearance, in a way that's like almost, it's artistic, along with like Keely's character and who she is. So I mean, it really, really paid off. I mean, every week my friends and I that would watch the show, we'd be waiting to see what Keely would be wearing next, and like her hair,
Yeah.
makeup, and how it all came together. So we really, really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. And Jason never stifled it ever. And he is our leader and he does get a say, and he never once came to me and went, is this a bit much, or is this, he never once questioned it. He trusted me and Jackie and Juno. And he would never ever want to, I don't think he would ever want to play up to the role of a ditzy kind of. He wanted Keely to be empowered. That was her arc, her transition. And he's just like that as a writer and as a creator. He wanted everyone every character to develop and to grow and blossom as they should. And I think she definitely, and although the whole, Keely Roy storyline was devastating, there's a bigger message there, I think. Not to say that they might not get back together in 5 years' time, but right now, Keely Jones is focused on Keely Jones, and I think it says a lot. It's a good thing.
And touching on the various different types of femininity, what was some of the inspiration for some of Rebecca's looks, and how have they transitioned across the seasons?
So Rebecca's initial look, so I was looking at, when I first looked at her, I was looking at female, like iconic females in business, because I had in my head that at the start of season one, when she's just been rejected by Rupert, she would have her war paint on and she'd be all about business, and she have to look so polished and groomed, but actually there was a depth of heartbreak in there. So we didn't want to overdo it with the makeup or the hair. And actually, as season two progressed, she gets onto the dating scene. So I feel like it transitioned to a bit sexier, because she was suddenly dating and she was putting herself out there. But the thing that I love about season three is that we see a softer side to Rebecca. And I think she's never looked more beautiful than when she had no makeup on and wet hair on the boat in Amsterdam, when she's been in the river. And I love the fact that we break her down more in season three. I actually love in season two when she's just chilling on the bed with her mum. And any time we got the opportunity to put less on her, Hannah was really up for that. She was always like, because when Rebecca's at work, she always has to look polished. She always has to look like, you know, she's a T-Rex, right? She can walk into a boardroom and hold her own amongst all these men, and it's her war paint, it's her armor. However, anytime we got an opportunity to show her at home with no makeup on, I mean, when she's relaxing with Sam in season two, she's barely got any makeup on, believe it or not. She's that beautiful. And, you know, every time that we get a chance to kind of, you know, she was really up for being thrown in the canal and having all her eyelashes. She wanted like her eyelashes hanging off her face. She wanted to see Rebecca broken down a little bit, you know, because it's not, you know, and the girls, and Juno is the same. Hannah and Juno both say they want women out there to know, you don't have to look like this. We don't look like this. We have people that make us look like this. She wanted it to look like Rebecca was really polished for work, because she was the face of Richmond and obviously a multimillionaire, but she wanted to show her softer side whenever there was an opportunity, as much as possible. And equally, Juno's always like, every time we were at her house, you know, if she was chilling on her sofa, if she was in bed, when the boys come round, we take that makeup off. I mean, she's supposed to have like permanent eyebrows, and she's supposed to have eyelash extensions permanently, because that's just who she is. But we would take everything else off, and the hair would go into a plait, or just a messy, or like the hilarious one clip in episode 12, which I just thought was just hilarious, because we started with two, and then we were like, and she was like, I think it's kind of cute and quirky to just have one. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then we had two different ones to choose from, and we were like stood there like, no, it works. Just, you know, trying to tell a story however we can. And I feel like Rebecca being super polished at work and then being less polished at home, even that is just a little insight into how people do put their armor on when they're at work, don't they? And then they get home and they just go through the front door, strip off, throw the joggers on or the sweatpants.
Take off the bra. As soon as you get home, you take off the bra.
Take your hair down, and just everything, just, you know, and they both wanted to portray that. Yeah, so I love moments like that.
This might be a little bit like more, I guess, like specific, but you mentioned Rebecca's character and like the physical dismantling being equal to like her emotional dismantling. One of like the, I guess, most pivotal scenes were the finale, and when Ted leaves in that moment in the airport. Was there any intentional way of making them both up for that moment?
No, she had her armor on. That was a really vulnerable moment for her. That was, I think, in Rebecca's mind, she knew the game was up. Like, she knew he was going and there was nothing she could do, because she'd really kind of asked him, she'd put herself out there. You know, she'd sat on the bleachers with him and said, I know there's nothing I can offer you, because what you bring to this team is priceless. But I think she just, in her mind, she maybe like one final attempt or one final goodbye. And she was turned out for that moment. You know, she was dressed like she was going to work. She was in her Richmond vest. And the way she played that scene, I mean, we were all watching it like quite emotional. That was a really difficult scene to watch. I mean, the tears are real. Hannah doesn't need any tricks. She's so talented. We didn't need to put mascara down her face. It just wasn't necessary. Everything was so natural because we were all so sad the show was ending. It was real. We didn't need any trickery. And watching them in that moment was just a sweet moment. But Rebecca was ready for work that day, as she always is. And then, you know, I mean, there's so many things that you could have done. There's so many more moments we could have done, but that episode was so long as it was. Like you had to, and it was a really important, and you know, half of that point was her then going outside and the little girl, and obviously her dreamboat who was there, and you couldn't have her see him with, like, you know, you gotta be a bit kind with like black lines coming out of her eyes when she sees her future, we hope, we're led to believe, standing before her. She can't then look like, you know, something out of Kiss with like black streaks all down her face.
I mean, it was probably the most bittersweet moment, and you could tell that the emotions were very real. For my final question, I don't want to take up too much of your time. What was the journey with Ted? I know Ted is probably the most consistent character, you know, physically wise, but were there any sort of changes, or was it incredibly intentional that he needed to remain as, I guess, similar as possible throughout all 3 seasons?
So I think that the beauty of Ted and the reason people love him so much is that he never changed. Like, he came from Kansas, he stayed Kansas. And so when I first met Jason and he came over to shoot the show, whereas a lot of the guys in AFC Richmond, you'll notice they have like a really a current trendy haircut. So we'll get the clippers on them and we'll give them, you know, we've got a amazing Afro barber that comes in and gives them really close skin fades, and they have all these funky haircuts. So from day dot, I said to Jason, I'm going to scissor cut you. I'm going to give you an old fashioned haircut because I want you to look like you've just got off. I'm not saying that Kansas don't do fades, but in my head, Ted had been going to the same barber for 20 years. He's not very good, but he only charges him $6, and he's fiercely loyal, so he can't possibly not go to him. And then in my mind, he gets to Richmond and he finds the same guy, basically in Richmond. He finds a guy who's got an old barber shop, who hasn't got the skills of a modern day barber, but charges him £5, and he's a really nice guy. So Ted goes with him. So like, in my head, I was always like, we want to keep that up. I never want him to look like he's come to London and he's turned into, you know, I was going to say Pep then I realized he's bald, so that's not a good example. It's like the Man City manager. But you know what I mean? He's not going to come over and suddenly get all trendy, is he? Mm-hmm. So I was really aware of keeping that. And also, because I was aware of Ted's kind of mental health and the situations that were going to come up, I thought it was really good to keep the hair long. So we had something when he's having his panic attacks, when he's having his, you know, his therapy sessions, and he does grab his hair at one point when he's in with Dr. Sharon, and he does utilize it. So there were moments when I could break Jason down. Filming schedule's tough, but if we could ever let his beard grow, mm-hmm. like on a day when, say, Henry had left town, or he was particularly worried about Michelle's new relationship, or he'd have one of his panic attacks, if we could ever let the stubble grow, we would do that. And if I could ever, you know, keep his hair a bit raggedy if he was having a tough time, if we could tell the story that way, than we would. But because Jason's on camera so much, and you'd kind of flip from one day to the next week, sometimes it was dangerous. So it was like, we gotta make a judgment call here. And little known, I've never said this to anyone, but Jason actually really dislikes shaving. I mean, it's probably quite obvious by the fact that every time we're not filming Ted, he is photographed with a full-grown beard, and like he hates shaving. So if ever we could have the excuse in the story for him not to shave, he'd be like, great. But the schedule that was, it was tough. I was like, it's a bit of a risk. And he'd be like, oh, give me the razor. Like, you know, we used to laugh about it. Yeah. But he was such a great, as his person, I could say he's the most lovely man to look after. 3 seasons, and the most polite, welcoming, collaborative, human, and humble, really, considering what he's done. And it's his, you know, it's a lot of him. You know, it's a great person to work with.
Well, Nicky, thank you so much. On behalf of everyone, like my staff at Screen Speck, we love the show. We love the work that you all put into it. It shows that there's a lot of love. And specifically, we like to talk to people that work in these areas of making a TV show, because there's just so many moving parts, and there's parts that we like to highlight that people may not think about as often. But definitely thank you for your work.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really grateful. Thanks so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.